Yo, Amateur Lore here, and we're back with another hot take video. The season is literally only a 5-minute drive from your current location, so tell everyone you love them because we're all going ghost for the next couple of months. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to leave a like and a sub. Now let's take a look at some of your spicy hot takes for the 2025 college football season. First hot take of the video comes from Sam Zilistra7764, who says Iowa has a top 50 offense in yards per game this year. Only shooting for top 50, huh? Well, I don't blame you. Anything higher might have been an extreme stretch, especially for poor old Iowa. A school where the special team players probably get more girls than the actual starters on offense. For this take, I went back to the 2024 college football season to see where they finished in total offense. And man, it was like being on the hub scrolling for that banger video you forgot the name of. I had to go all the way back to like the 5th or 6th page to find Iowa sitting nice and pretty at the 117th spot. Now, for this hot take to have a chance at coming true, the Hawkeyes would need to improve about 60 plus spots this season, which is going to be incredibly difficult, but, and this is a big but, there's a path for it to happen. I've been taking a look at this Iowa roster, specifically at what they return on offense, and it doesn't look too promising if I'm being real. Well, minus their O-line, which is one of the top O-line groups in the Big Ten and in all of college football. Their receiving core, on the other hand, has a lot of question marks. They brought in some transfers, but none of the wide receivers they brought in were what you would exactly call game changers. However, they did bring in a quarterback named Mark Gronowski, who played 4 years at South Dakota State, winning 2 national championships. His 2024 season stats weren't too shabby, passing for 2,721 yards with 23 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions. He can also tuck the ball on the run too. From what I read on the Hawkeyes wire, he is the projected starter, and if he can perform just like he did at South Dakota State, this hot take might have some motion. You already know the defense and special teams are going to help out drastically with field position, so there should be a lot of short fields with plenty of touchdowns scored if everything goes as planned. I appreciate the hot take, and trust me, I'd love to see Iowa dropping 40 bombs on teams. But knowing Iowa football, I wouldn't be shocked if they hover somewhere around the 60 to 80 range for total offense. This next spicy take comes from Broadway Bryant, who says, hot take, Georgia's gonna lose at least 3 games this season. I don't see how Gunnar Stockton is an improvement from Carson Beck. Defense lost a lot of production to the draft. Why do so many people like this comment? What's up with the Georgia hate? Anyway, while Georgia does have a really difficult schedule with a pretty nasty stretch of SEC football, that begins right away in week 3 where they have to face off against teams such as Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, Florida, and Texas. Sheesh. And you already know you can chalk that Gator game up to a loss already as well. So yeah, 9-3 is a real possibility. However, I do have to offer a little bit of pushback. Georgia is Georgia. They reload every year and have been a 10-win plus college football program for the last decade plus. I know they lost a lot of players to the NFL draft, but Georgia also had the #1 recruiting class in 2024. So if we're being real, I think they will be just fine when it comes to replacing a lot of their production. And please comment down below to let me know if I'm in the minority with this take here, but from the games I watched Gunnar Stockton play in, bro looked pretty decent to me. Like, I'm speaking just from the eye test. From what I saw, I didn't notice a real step down in quarterback play. I thought he actually might have been an upgrade. Against Notre Dame in the playoffs, he threw for 234 yards with a touchdown, looking pretty good in a big-time football game, and he's only a junior. With the full spring and some fall camp of first-string reps, look out, he might actually make the Georgia football team better. Listen, as a Gator fan, I would love for this take to come true. I hate Georgia, but I have to give props where props is due, and as a football program, they have been second to only Alabama when it comes to revamping their roster and continuing their string of dominance. I can't see them losing 3 games, and if they do, I feel like they'll probably still make the playoff. But thanks for the take, Broadway Bryant. This take was so ludicrous I had to put it in this video. Iconic4199 says, Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt, and Minnesota make the playoffs. Wow. If this were to actually happen, I think the entire college football world would be set ablaze. If I already didn't have a fat little parlay put on Florida to win the Natty, with Lagway winning the Heisman plus Tua winning NFL MVP, I would have dipped my fingers into the barrel to throw some cheese on all of those teams to make the playoffs. I'm just imagining right now how fat that payout would be. Okay, back to the take. Realistically, I think out of all those teams you listed, Georgia Tech probably has the best chance of sneaking their way into the playoffs. They play in by far the weakest conference in the P4, they return their starting quarterback with some other key pieces, and their schedule sets up really nice for them to make a run. Minnesota is kind of in the same boat. They return a lot of production, and while their schedule is a little bit tougher than the Yellow Jackets with 2 road games against top 10 opponents, everything else on the Gophers' schedule seems pretty manageable. It's been a little minute since PJ Fleck had the Gophers in the spotlight. Maybe this season he wakes the college football world up. Vandy, on the other hand, I'm not so optimistic about, and this has nothing to do with them. I like their quarterback. I like what they're building down there in Nashville. Vanderbilt is actually one of the few colleges I've been to. I went like 10 plus years ago at this point for a hockey tournament in Nashville and stopped by the campus because even back then I was obsessed with college campuses and stadiums. I love Vanderbilt, but I don't love that schedule. 4 top 15 games on the season with 3 of those matches being on the road. How does Vandy survive and find a path to the playoffs? Someone down in the comments draw it out for me because right now I can't see it. Maybe Georgia Tech sneaks in, but all 3 schools making it in at once? Yeah, alright. Thanks for the hot take though, Brody. Alright, this hot take comes from SS Joseph DBZ, who says, my Auburn Tigers will beat Georgia and Alabama and knock them out of playoff contention. War eagle. Wow, I will say this, you definitely pissed off 2 fan bases with that statement. And another thing, did you start watching Jujutsu Kaisen like I recommended? Me and Brody sometimes talk about anime and I recommended him JJK. It's really fire. Anybody here watch anime? Let me know your favorite down below in the comments. Anyway, back to the take. So you're saying Auburn will not only beat Georgia and Alabama, but them winning will also knock them out of playoff contention? First things first, will Auburn even be good enough to compete with the big boys of the SEC? Georgia and Alabama are both currently ranked as top 10 teams, both loaded with NFL talent all over the roster. Now, I will admit, Auburn does have some talent too. Everybody is wondering if quarterback Jackson Arnold is finally going to live up to his 5-star billing. Maybe a fresh new start with the head coach who is known for his offensive mind, and Hugh Freeze, paired up with some athletic skill position players, most notably Cam Coleman, who went pretty nuts last season, and of course their incoming transfer from Georgia Tech, Eric Singleton, who caught 56 passes for 754 yards with 3 touchdowns last year with the Yellow Jackets. So with improved production from the key spots, who knows, this Tiger offense could go crazy. Will they beat Alabama and Georgia? Maybe. One thing I will give you is that when it comes to Bama this year, there are a lot of question marks, and the same could be said with Georgia. But those games are going to be tough. At least you get both of those matches at home. And when I say anything, I mean anything can happen at Jordan-Hare. I think the thing keeping this take from coming true is the fact that you said Auburn will also knock them both out of playoff contention. Like, your take is so specific. Too specific to the point where there's like a 1% chance of it happening. But then again, this is a hot take video. This last hot take we're going to go over really had me deep in thought the entire drive home from work. This hot take comes from Chicago Land Railfan 143, who says, the winner of the national championship game isn't from the Big Ten or SEC. Yeah, I know, right? This is one of those hot takes that has you sitting down thinking for a little minute. What do you guys think? What teams could you realistically see winning the national title that isn't from the SEC or Big Ten? Alright, so when it comes to this take, I'm pretty stumped. Taking a look at the top 15, there are only 4 teams in the top 15 who are not from the SEC or Big Ten conference. Them being Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami, and Arizona State. The only 2 teams I could realistically see going all the way that do not play in the Big Ten or SEC are the Clemson Tigers and Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I actually think both of these teams have a pretty good shot at making that happen. After them though, you're pretty much on a blind date when it comes to another squad that can reach the promised land. Miami is stacked, but I do not trust Mario Cristobal at all, and plus I'm a Gators fan, so you know they're losing that game. I love Arizona State and would love to see them do the unthinkable, but come on. The road to the Natty is going to be so brutal, I just don't know if the Sun Devils are deep enough to go on that type of run. Can anybody think of any group of 5 schools that could make a run to the Natty? You see, this hot take is so good because when you eliminate the Big Ten and SEC from the conversation, your choices become so slim. I could just name a bunch of fodder programs to be edgy, but I'm actually trying to make sense with my choices for this take. If there was 1 school, or maybe 2 from the Big 12 that I could see doing something spectacular, it's either Texas Tech because they're all in right now and it seems like they're trying to make a big push, or Kansas State, and I'm just throwing them in there because I'm a big fan personally of their starting quarterback Avery Johnson. Other than that, I really can't stand behind any other team. I really like this hot take. Thanks for commenting, Brody.